guys, what is going on? Blossom's back, and welcome back to the episode of Top Drives. Now, no dilly-dally, okay? I've learned my lesson for sure. I wanted to review, and I even downloaded all the photos, and I already made the tier list. And I wanted to make a pack review of the Motorsport Carbon Fiber from World Expo and above. But I just never got the time. By the time I actually had enough time to record that video, the pack was only in the store for only about 5 more hours, which is why I just decided to do the 1 mil opening only and not record that video. So I'm learning from that. I'm recording this as quickly as I possibly can. We know what the track sets are. We know what the RQ is. So this is going to be my review, in my personal opinion, of the best and worst cars from the 2019 Carbon Fiber. Now, first things first, I think this is the first tri-series that we've had that actually includes cars outside of any update after World Expo, which is kind of crazy, not gonna lie, because World Expo was about 8 months ago, but since then, every single tri-series that we've had was surrounded an update from World Expo or above. So basically, you know, Enter the Black Forest, Amalfi Coast, like it almost feels like every car that came before World Expo has become redundant, and in a way, that kind of still is the case, because when you look at prize car winning, the 935, the Moby Dick, right, is World Expo. The 750i is Enter the Black Forest. The Pagani Huayra is Amalfi Coast. The BMW 840 is Enter the Black Forest. The only one being the Lotus Elise Cup coming from Great Exhibition, but it's only here because it's not an Epic anymore, and it got a rarity change in, you guessed it, the World Expo update. I believe it was the World Expo update. It was the tokens one. So yeah, so again, it's still mostly just a new wave of cars, but anyway, you guys know how it is. For the final, you are basically getting 2 City Street mediums. Now, I was talking about this in my server yesterday after the stream from the 1 mil, which you saw from yesterday's opening, and I was talking about this, and I really hope that this does not jinx anything, but I'm pretty sure that they actually let the guy that made the horrible track sets go, because for the last month and a half, maybe even more than that, since the introduction of flags, the track sets have actually not been appalling, which is great. So Hutch, if you're watching, please, for the love of God, keep that up, okay? Do not bring back those absolute AIDS track sets, okay? So once again, really good stuff. As in terms of consistency for the final track sets, there are at least 2 City Street mediums in every single track set. Some are wet, some are dry. That's completely fine, as long as there are 2 and not, like, you know, 3 without and 1 with, which kind of makes you question if you should run 2 mediums or 1 medium, blah blah blah. So this, in my opinion, is the best possible hand. I think that lower RQ finals are always kind of interesting because there are multiple different hands that you can play around with. In my personal opinion, I think this is the best. The 935, the 750, the Huayra, the Elise, and the 840. If you can run this all these cars maxed out, you're definitely winning the car. Not only winning the car, but, you know, getting tier 1. So basically, for the medium, for the wet stuff, the 750 is going to be the best car to go for. And the 840, actually, you know what? There is a flaw in my design. Damn it, I didn't think about this, because this is the best for the wet stuff, City Street small car park. So ideally, you should be running another medium ground clearance car. You'd be running 3 mediums in this setup. So actually, that isn't really... The thing is, okay, ideally, the best possible hand is this. If I replace the Pagani with the Cayenne Turbo, the only issue is 97 plus 92 plus 89 plus 64 plus 59 is 401 RQ. I did the math for you for this, okay? So that's why I took this out and I put the Pagani in, but now I see a flaw in my design. You need 3 medium ground clearance cars if you want to. That's the problem. If you run the BMW 750 xDrive, you need to run 3 medium ground clearance cars, because this is going to be on the wet. So there are 2 wet smalls, but there are 2 track sets with dry smalls, where you need to put the 750 on the car park, and the other wet one, which I believe is like a slalom or something like that, G-force, whatever it is, super twisty stuff basically. So I guess, okay, this, yeah, we'll just do that. There we go. So put in the Cayenne because that fits. The other Cayenne doesn't work because that would bring us up to 401 RQ, but this is still 400 RQ, and then we have the... Yeah, so that. If you're 5 of those cars max, congratulations. There you go. Live changes. Possible prize car winning is everything you see over here. Honestly, There are a lot of good cars in this pack, so I wouldn't be too upset if I had any of these. Honestly, if you have the RSR, if you have the Huayra, you're still really, really good. If you have the GTR Track Edition, you're still in really good hands. One thing to consider, though, is that with the Tri-Series, in terms of max legendaries, there are going to be a lot of max legendaries here. Imagine, like, a lot of people that I know own a max 935. A lot of people that I know own a max RSR. A lot of people that I know own a max 330D. A lot of people that I know own a max Pagani Huayra Roadster BC. So don't be surprised if you see a lot of max legendaries, because these cars are really, really good. I really do want the 750 though. It's a really good photo and it's just really, really good. I do have the 330D, which is pretty cool. I can max it for this final if I want to. And because it's just a really good car overall, I wouldn't mind doing so. Unlikely would be these cars over here. So these are still somewhat decent, but you're definitely dependent on, you know, losing to these cars, which is a pretty big batch of cars to lose to. But, you know, still they are able to beat a bigger batch of cars. Good luck is basically these ultra rares and kind of like the somewhat okay epics. And then lol, I mean, you're not gonna win. You're just not gonna win the Tri-Series prize car of any of these. If you can win the Tri-Series prize car with a Ford Ranger Raptor, I will give you $25 to the first person that does it, because if a bunch of people do it, then I'll be broke. But yeah, there's just no way you're winning a Tri-Series prize car with the Ford Ranger. That's just not okay. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the other segment of the video where I review this pack from a unbiased standpoint. Well, I'll get to the unbiased stuff later, but I'll review this pack from, you know, a general standpoint to see how useful these cars are in the general sense of the game. Now, it's kind of funny that I brought up the unbiased part, because this is going to be a little bit biased. Now, why am I saying this? I'm not saying this because I want to be biased. The honest scenario is, and the honest reality is, well, the reality is always honest, so the reality is, cars that came from World Expo and after World Expo are worth more in the game than cars before World Expo. That just is a fact. Every single event that we've had recently is just surrounded by cars from World Expo and above. How many times have I seen the Avia? How many times have I seen the Hennessy? How many times have I seen the Club Sport 25? I think the only outliers that recently I've been seeing a lot of Bentley EXPs. This is why I barely record videos in the morning. I hope I remember to cut that out in the edits, but my nose is so runny in the morning. It's not because I'm sick, it's a condition, I guess. My nose is running in the morning. It is how it is. But anyway, Dirk Kaiser, Daily Driver, frequent provider, finishes also hot garbage. Like I said, if a car is from World Expo and above, I will give it a slight bias. Maybe like if the car is pernicious ulcer, in my opinion, but it's World Expo, I'll put it in frequent provider, kind of, you know what I mean? But yeah, for the most part, I'll be comparing World Expo cars amongst themselves. And not amongst, you know, the literal sense of the general sense, because it really seems like when there's a World Expo event, it's always World Expo and above. And when I mean World Expo, I mean World Expo and above, so everything. So that includes Learn the Savannah Way, Pacific Coast Highway, just that entire batch of updates in the last 8 months. So let us begin. We start off strong, joking, with the Bentleys. The Mulsanne, the Extended, the Grand Limousine, and the Mulsanne Spade. Are they hot garbage? That is the age-old question. And the answer is... these two are not, these two are. These two are. The thing is, they all have high top speeds. Yes, you can use it from the test bowl. The Mulsanne Grand Limousine, maybe you can get a little bit of value if you 332 it, but honestly, I mean, when is the last time I ever used any of these Bentleys? The Mulsanne, this one's just a little bit better because it gets 87 handling when you max it out, 88 if you want to go 332. No, just say 87, I think. You know what, it's an irrelevant car. I don't even know what the max hand. Mine is 87, but I just don't know what I think I upgraded it to 233. The Butter. Okay, Butter will move out the frequent provider. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still okay. Fits the niche, is still the best of the Ultra Bentleys, so that's gonna be okay. 330D Touring, I'm going to give it Pernicious Ulcer. It actually has the same handling as a extended wheelbase Bentley, but it one-ups it by being standard tires. So yes, rear-wheel drive standard tires, in my opinion, is a pretty useless niche, but at least it handles pretty well, so, you know, that's okay. Moving on, BMW, and it's also like super cheap to use for an ultra rare. Next up is the BMW 120D X-Drive, frequent provider. Usually, like, this thing is only very useful if it's a rain hot hatch event or a rain hatchback event. If it's not hatchback, then the 120D will get roasted by the saloons, because the other four-wheel drive standard tire saloon cars just handle better and are just better cars. But if it is, you know, limited to hatchbacks, then the 120D X-Drive is actually pretty good. Next up is the I'm sorry, this is the one that gets 86. Yeah, this is the one that gets 86 handling. The 320D Touring does not. So this is, yeah, I have this 233, so that's 87. So this maxes out 87, this is 86. I'll bring this down, and that only goes up to 84. Yeah, the 320i is a bit better because it handles better. Next up is the 840i Grand Coupe. Is Der Kaiser, in my opinion, and I think in anybody's opinion. That thing is an absolute beast. Medium ground clearance, it handles so well, and it's a great value for your buck in the final as well. So it really shows its value here. Saves so much RQ, and it only loses to the legendary medium ground clearance cars by like what, 50 points. So yeah, it's fantastic. The BMW M235i X-Drive Grand Coupe is freaking provider. Once again, it has its niches. It handles okay, kind of like the German version of the Audi. Wait a minute, the Audi is also German. It's like the BMW version of the Audi. That's RQ64. I don't know what the model is called. I don't like Audis. I mean, they're okay. They're okay. I just don't like them in the game. Next up, BMW Z4 M40i 3.0. I'm gonna say frequent provider. The only issue is that it's a pretty decent hybrid, but it isn't my first go-to twisty car, because the first thing I can think of is an RQ60 twisty car is the Lotus 340R, which is a car that you don't even use that often anyway. So I'm gonna give it frequent provider. I think you're gonna get value out of it, but not too often. Same thing with the Z4. These two cars are basically the same. It's just that one car is a lot more expensive to use. One car is a lot cheaper to use. Ford Focus ST is a car that I used a lot at the start of World Expo. But since then, it kind of went down in value, but I still think that it is somewhat decent. Medium ground clearance, it handles very well. And it does have its niches, like, you know, it being in a state and all. So I think it's a daily driver. Ford Ranger Raptor is a pernicious ulcer. Just too heavy. And then the Rover Discovery S4, or whatever it is, pernicious ulcer. Nautilus is a pernicious ulcer. Lotus Elise Cup 250, I'm gonna give it Der Kaiser. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because it's never going to be as good as the Maxi Turbo or a Zenith. So does that really deserve Der Kaiser if the Maxi Turbo and the Zenith are going to be Der Kaiser? It's a tough one, but I'm going to give it Der Kaiser. I'm going to be nice to it. I'm going to give it a very low Der Kaiser, though. Like a high daily driver, low Der Kaiser. If you disagree, you think it should be daily driver, I would also, you know, there's no arguments there. It's somewhere in between. Now, moving on is the Morgan Plus 6. I think it's going to be a frequent provider. Once again, kind of very similar to the Bentley Mulsanne Speed. It's really just not bad because it's the best of its class. It's the best Morgan. And there are a lot of Morgans Ultrarears out there. So, yeah, I'll give it that. The Subaru Ascent is a pernicious ulcer. Part of me actually wants to bring it down, but the 0 to 60 is okay, but that's kind of irrelevant, honestly, for an ulcer tire car. And then we move on to Epic. So we start with the MDX. The MDX, I think, it's okay. If you manage to max it out, it's okay. It's 86 handling if you max it out. 87 if you go 223, but why would you? But yeah, 86 handling when you max it out for a four-wheel drive also tire car. It's actually not bad, but you'll need to max it out for it to be a freaking provider. Vantage is a daily driver. I'll give it to Kaiser. Audi, a very similar situation to the Lease Cup though. Audi S4 Avant is going to be a frequent provider. I think it's okay. But you see, this is the thing. It has that World Expo bonus. I'll think about this S4. I might bring it up to daily driver later. The S5 Sportback, in my opinion, is a pernicious ulcer. It's just a worse version of the S4. If this goes up to daily driver, then this will go up to freaking provider. I want to see how hard I'm gonna ride on this World Expo bandwagon. Audi S6 TDI is hot garbage. Audi S7, I'm gonna give it daily driver. Though it handles like garbage though, but the 0 to 60 is alright, and the MRA is a little better than the other Audis. The Audi SQ2, which is a worse version of the SQ8. So the SQ8 TDI, I think, is a daily driver. I think I've always given this car daily driver. And then the SQ2, I'm just going to bring it one below, freaking provider. Bentley Bentayga diesel is a pernicious ulcer. The only thing about the Bentley Bentayga, let's do all the Bentley Bentaygas, is that, you know, it's got that testable niche, and that's it. Like, outside of the testable niche is hot garbage. And the Bentley Bentayga V8, the 82 RQ, the V8 doesn't even have the testable niche because the W12 has the testable niche. It's better. So, yeah, it's just useless. It's hot garbage. These two, you know, they're borderline hot garbage. Now, the BMWs, I think the 330D X-Drive Touring is Der Kaiser. The 320D X-Drive Saloon is frequent. And the 330i is pernicious because it's a rear-wheel drive standard compared to this four-wheel drive standard. So all the rear-wheel drive standard tire cars are just not very useful in my opinion. I think again the 330i touring, you can get some value out of it if you max it out because it'll get 87 handling for a rear-wheel drive standard tire car. But you would always rather use a four-wheel drive standard tire car anyway. In my opinion, a four-wheel drive standard tire car is like plus 10 in handling in the rain, if that makes sense. So on paper, it says it has 85 handling when you max out the 320d, but ideally when you put it on the wet, it kind of feels like it has 95 handling, if that makes sense, with four-wheel drive and standard. Moving on to the 730 X Drive, I'm gonna give this a frequent provider. The 740 LD X Drive, though, I'm gonna give that daily driver. I've learned that that car is better from recent final tri-series this year. BMW 840 X Drive convertible is a pernicious ulcer. The M130 X Drive, ooh. Again, I just don't see a lot of use. I'm gonna give it frequent provider just because it has the hatchback niche, kind of like the 120 as well. M2 competition, I'm gonna give it frequent provider. BMW, this one, four-wheel drive performance, nah, pernicious ulcer in my opinion. Same thing with the X-Drive touring, but then again, the touring is an estate. So it's a bit more niche. The competition is a bit more lenient. So I'm going to bring that up actually. X2 M35i is a daily driver. Kind of like, yeah, it's just light and it handles pretty well. These all-surface tire BMWs are garbage though. I'm never going to be using those. The X6 is a little better, so it's a pernicious ulcer. The Camaro SS is a pernicious ulcer. The Hellcat wide body is Dirk Kaiser, obviously. Ford Edge ST, that was a time where I really wanted the car, mainly because it had a really good photo. I still have it. It's just not been maxed, and it's not been maxed in my garage for like borderline 3 years now or something. I'm gonna give it pernicious ulcer. It handles better than the BMWs, but it's not saying too much. The Q50 Red Sport is a frequent provider. I'm actually gonna be using this in the current final. Aurora Sport, frequent provider. X-Siege Cup 430 is Dirk Kaiser in my opinion. John Cooper Works Clubman. I mean, I don't even know that this car even exists. I'll give it pernicious ulcer because it does get 90 handling, four-wheel drive. It's okay. Porsche Carrera, this one is daily driver. One of the best handling four-wheel drive, low ground clearance performance tire epics with 97 when you max it out. So that's really good. I think it's only behind the Cosworth. So the Cosworth as well as the Subaru WRX STI S209. So this one I'm going to give it daily driver as well. Next up is the Porsche 911 Speedster 4.0. That is going to be, oh, no, not pernicious ulcer. My mouse kind of malfunctioned over there. I'm going to give it Dirk Kaiser. It's very similar to the Aston Martin Vantage, just a little bit worse. But it's also slightly lower in RQ. So if these two were the same RQ, then obviously then the Speedster would be devalued. But since this is cheaper to use, I think that's okay. Also, this is World Expo and above, and the Aston isn't. So that's a little bit of bias there. The Cayenne, I'm going to give this... Where did I put the X2? So I think that this is just slightly worse than the X2. It's heavier as well, so I'm going to put it in frequent provider. And then this one is going to be also frequent provider. And then we have the Lavorg, that is hot garbage. Well, then again, estate, so I'll bring it up one. Superleggera, I think, is daily driver. Both Superleggeras are daily driver. Bentley Continentals. Okay, well, we've talked about these cars many, many times, haven't we? They're all hot garbage. Well, I think one of the Bentley Continentals are actually okay, because I remember when I did my overrated, underrated, or rightly rated, I was looking at the top drives record times, and there was actually one Bentley that kind of stood out, and I'm pretty sure it was his Continental GT. So if my memory serves me correct, then I'm going to put it in pernicious ulcer. BMW 330d X Drive is definitely Dirk Kaiser. The other standard tire BMW, in my opinion, is also Dirk Kaiser, but this one, the 81, I'm going to bring it down to frequent provider. The problem is the handling difference is actually kills it. It really kills it. Not to mention that the 745 is really heavy. The issue is I'd rather just use this 80 RQ over this 81 RQ on any track set, and because of that, it really devalues the 745. The M850 is kind of hot garbage, maybe pernicious ulcer. The 0 to 60 is terrible. The M8 the 0 to 60 is the only saving grace. Everything else is terrible. There you go. BMW M8 competitions and BMW M8 coupes. At best, I think they're gonna be like frequent provider. Maybe the competition coupe is daily driver, just 3287. Again, you know, 87 handling for a 4-wheel drive for an 89 RQ car, not good enough. You can get this Porsche at 87 as well, 4-wheel drive, and it's easier to max out. You can get 97 of this. So yeah, I think that this is just so much more value. The Porsche, I mean, now next up are the McLarens. Now every single McLaren I think is just their Kaiser. Like I said, the McLarens, you cannot really go wrong. They're just very rear-wheel drive performance tire based cars. Like they're good. Besides the GT though, this thing is like daily driver. I'll bring it up to Der Kaiser if it wasn't so inflated in RQ, but it really doesn't deserve to be an 89. If it went back down to what it was before, I think 85, like that would be okay. But 89 is just no, it's just wrong. Next up is the track edition. In my opinion, is Der Kaiser, the best JPT that there is. 4-wheel drive, that is. Pagani Huayra BC is Der Kaiser. Porsche 911 Carrera 4. It handles, see, this one handles well, and it's 84 RQ. Like, you compare it to this BMW that's 87 and it's 5 RQ more. I get that there's a massive 0 to 60 difference, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to put any of these two cars on a drag situation, so that 0 to 60 is a bit devalued. So that's why this is frequent provider in my opinion, and that's why the Porsche, I don't think the Porsche deserves to be Der Kaiser, but definitely like daily driver. The RSR, yeah, Der Kaiser. 935, obviously, is the best car in the damn pack. The Cayenne, I'm gonna say Der Kaiser, and the Cayenne Turbo E-Hybrid is frequent provider. The issue with, daily driver. The issue with these two, right, these two Cayennes is that this is like the dry spec one, and this is the off-road spec one. And at the end of the day, these are all surface tire cars. You're gonna use them on the off-road, so that's why the Cayenne Turbo, in my opinion, is just better. Also, it's cheaper to use. Next up is the Panamera, and this is going to be frequent provider, and last but not least, the SVA is hot garbage. But anyway, guys, that's just once again my personal opinion. I would say the part that I definitely don't know about the most are the lower end epics, because nobody maxes them out, so there are no times for them, and nobody wants to max them out anyway, because why would you? So yeah, it's those lower grade epics are basically are mainly off intuition. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you're going for the prize car or not. Once again, it's just one of those scenarios where the prize car, where the requirements and the prize pool, or the car pool from the requirements, 2019 cars are just better than the prize car in general. Like that Arash is trash. Yeah, that Arash trash. That's funny. But anyway, should you open the pack? I mean, honestly, it's not bad. It's not bad in the pack. If you're looking for some of these, you know, some big bangers in here, like the 935, the RSR, the track edition, especially if you're a newer player. I think that this, if you were a newer player, this would be a really good pack for you to open, because if you're a more OG player, you are going to have like the McLarens or the track edition or the Pagani Huayra Roadster. A lot of people have those already because they've shown up in previous finals, even at 935. You know, older players will even own like the WRX STI, the DBS Superleggeras, all of those, right? So if you're a newer player, then this would be a really good pack for you to open. If you're an older player, less value, but still pretty good. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies. They so fine. Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies. They so fine. Sit back, relax in my Bonneville.